There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes, and I'm back.
Welcome back.
Where's Bruce?
Where's Bruce? That's the question. He listens to the podcast.
Does he?
He still does. He makes the time because he's in between his 140-hour work week. Right now, I don't think he sleeps anymore. I think it's just, like the free birds. They just party all night and wrestle all day.
Gotcha.
That's exactly the life he's living there, I'm guessing. So that's what he's doing right now. Hopefully he's watching Dark Side of the Ring.
Let's hope.
Let's hope, because it's a good episode. We're talking about two more good ones today. One, I'm going to have a feeling that you absolutely loved, and this is The Life and Legends of Harley Race.
I did like...
I loved it too.
Yeah.
This is another top good... For me, it's Terry Gordy or Harley Race right now.
Right.
I think those were been their crowning achievement so far, in my opinion. But Harley Race, old school wrestler.
Nobody more old school than Harley Race in my generation.
And true, legitimate, tough guy. They talk about tough guys of wrestling, but this is someone who, he really was a champion. Like, there's a lot of tough guys back in the day, but no one could bite the head off a steel rail than Harley Race, as they say.
Yep.
Mean son of a gun with a brutal, bad life, bad backstory, but you had to have it.
Yeah.
That's what toughens you up. Didn't give two F's about whatever. Was a professional in the ring. Was respectful to the people around him who worked with him.
He took it serious.
Took it serious and took no guff from anyone else. And it's odd because watching pictures, he reminded me, this is so weird, of my grandfather. He had that look. My grandfather had the sideburns like he had.
Yep.
My grandfather he was a bigger man and he had tough hands. He worked with it. He was a working man with his hands.
Right.
And when he was reading the paper, it looked like he wanted to kill a man. But basically, it was just him concentrating and just reading.
Right.
But he looked mean. My mom says that she was scared to death of him before she met him because he was just a mean, menacing Harley Race. That dude looks mean at me. I pee my pants before he even sits up.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, legitimate badass, as they say.
Yes. Yeah, if he looks your way, you're thinking... Time to find the door.
Time to find the door. Exactly. What about Harley Race did you know as a kid?
Well, as a kid, my introduction to Harley was he was just wrapping up NWA, and that was when he came shortly thereafter
joined Vince McMahon.
Yeah, and came in and they did that terrible gimmick for the King and all that stuff. But I watched that Saturday night's main event when he took the bump on the table and it ruptured his insides.
Wow, it's wild to think like that.
And he just slid off of it like a car wreck.
Something like that people don't realize you don't have to take a bump from the top of a cage to kill you. If you land wrong on a table, it can puncture your innards and ruin you right then and there.
Yeah.
Because as hard knocks go through tables and chairs, it didn't look like something too bad. But shoot, that stuff hurts.
It reminded me of like watching that, and you go, "Oh, it didn't look that bad." It's kind of like the Earnhardt wreck when Earnhardt wrecked, and you go,
he bumped into the wall. I saw the same thing. It's like, wait a minute, he just looked like he bumped into the wall.
Yeah.
You're right. It didn't.
So Harley's bump kind of reminded me of that.
You're right. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, wow.
But I think, talking about, what I knew as a kid, the older I got, and when I really got back into wrestling in the mid-90s, and that's when, shoot interviews and stuff were big things, and reading the dirt sheets and blah, blah, blah. That's when I learned a lot listening and reading stories about Harley and how tough he was, and also how kind of wild of an outlaw he was. And he was dangerous.
Now you've been saying poo poo on all these wrestlers' stories. They're
Yes.
made up. How many stories that we heard a lot of stories from Harley Race.
Well,
How many do you think were
I think
made up?
Harley has
Or do you-
has had a reputation for driving fast his whole life. So
Okay.
anything where speed is involved, Harley did it.
And I'm sure we could prove that his wife, and that's super tragic. Very early, was it his wife died on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
That's sad. And supposedly he hated Christmas ever since.
Who knows?
Okay, so that one.
I don't know about Harley Race's Christmas card collection.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
they said that, and I'm saying, do you believe that? I mean, I can definitely see where, man, that was your wife and unborn baby, and they
Yeah,
died.
I mean,
And
in
you know what?
wrestlers, one of their busiest days of the year in his heyday was Christmas and Thanksgiving. So
Yeah. So I'd imagine that probably would put a dour, on my holiday going forward for
Yeah.
all my life, too. Him going back to that guy's house and shooting it up, fake or real? Because, again, I can see Harley Race doing that.
I would almost think pretty true.
Pretty true.
I would almost be surprised that Harley didn't pull his ass out of the house and put the gun in his mouth.
I mean, that's the thing. I could see him. Well, remember he told that other wrestler, well, yeah, it's true, but it was with the machine gun.
Right.
And you're thinking, is he making a joke about it?
I think he's making a joke about that.
But you think he did fire? No, I could see him.
But yeah,
because
I
again,
think Harley was,
you don't mess with him,
and
he's going to come after you.
yeah.
And he don't care what you got. Bring your friend. I'll take him out too.
Yeah, a story that's not on there that Flair told was talking about traveling with Harley when he was younger, and how they would they'd be on the road and Harley would be like, "Hey, we're going to stop and have a drink," and they would find these just real off the wall kind of bars that are open late at night, and where you shoot pool, and can be a little. They ain't
Little
scared.
testy at
a little
times.
testy at times. A lot of testosterone, and Harley would walk in and basically, I think Flair said he smoked Salem cigarettes. I could be wrong about that. And he would basically take a pool cue and just knock everybody's quarter off the pool table and say, "I'm next." And somebody was dumb enough to say, "No, you're not." As soon as they came in, Harley dropped them. Pow.
Wow.
And they could either keep coming and he'd keep hitting them, or they would say, "Well, he's going to play next." So
You know what? I believe it.
I believe that story. As good of a story it is, I believe that kind of story.
Coming
Anything
from
with
Flair. You're
well,
gonna believe it.
because
Well, one story about Flair, so maybe
correct.
so,
It's not
yeah.
putting Flair over; it's putting Harley over.
Yeah.
And Harley has a lot of stories about driving and doing a lot of chaotic things. So
Another story, true or non-true. He goes to the WWF when they come through his town, and he burns the ring down
that
and says he's
That's-
looking for Hogan to kill him.
well, I know that they said the story was he walked up behind Hogan and he either slapped him on the ribs, like Hogan didn't see him coming, he popped him, or hit him in the kidney or something. But he basically went there to go talk to Vince, say, "I'm ready to come work."
Okay.
You know,
So he did not burn the ring
I'm not
down.
saying he didn't do that possibly
Okay. 'Cause
previously.
they're saying previously
he probably did.
that they came into his territory where most people would just sit there and stew and be mad. Harley said, it's my territory, and you're gonna learn respect, and burn the ring down. So you think that was
I'm sure
pretty
that there's
true.
definitely, but I do believe.
And then said that
because
he was
Harley
gonna
even
kill Hogan.
said
Okay.
something about walking in and scaring Hogan, basically.
Well, again, remember, I believe all this because I think Harley Race was probably the baddest man in wrestling. There's been a lot of bad men before,
Yeah.
but when you put Harley Race in his prime against anyone else in their prime, I think Harley
Well,
takes
and
him
you know
out.
what? I think he was.
I'd love to see a UFC match shoot
before
on these.
it's like a guy that was maybe not trained in some type of martial arts or something, just a legitimate tough guy. Harley's got to be at the top of that list.
I mean, you can stab him with a knife, but you're still not going to win. They could give me a crowbar and I couldn't beat him in a match. You know?
So I just think that Harley was respected by a lot of the guys as a shoot. They respected him, and I think he carried himself like a businessman.
Well, that's definitely the case because he knew it was a business, and that's why he could eventually do business with Vince.
Yep.
And they put him through the terrible King gimmick, but no one knew who he was. It was kind of sad that this is really the king of wrestling, but this is a stupid gimmick. He just looks like an old man wrestling against the new hotness. He didn't have his own specialness. He was from the old
Which to
school.
me was just a jab at Jerry Lawler. I still believe the whole
Really?
king of the ring and put a crown on a guy's head is a jab at Lawler.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Lawler was still wrestling at that time.
Oh yeah, Lawler was huge in Memphis, and that was one of the guys that.
So you think Vince did it just to say, "Here's our king"?
Vince did everything just because.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
And it's not like Lawler was going to go in there and tell Harley not to do it. Like, not going to happen.
Harley passes away.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a dark side of the ring element here, from all the wrecks. The boat wreck that took all his savings out.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking. So, broken man just trying to get some things. I did not realize that he was in wrestling when I started watching it, because those mid 90s up to the late 90s, he was doing some manager for WCW.
He was managing Vader in like 92, 93 in WCW, because Vader was such a kind of a wild card and wouldn't listen to people, and they're like, we'll put Harley with him.
Harley knows how to control someone like that.
Harley's not going to put up with Vader.
His crap.
It might be Vader time, but if Harley slapped his ass, it was Harley time.
There you go.
Well, he basically said, Vader told a story about his job riding with Harley was, Harley basically told him how he wanted him to hand him a beer. And when my hand does this, I want you to put a beer in my hand.
Shut up.
And basically Vader said Harley always drove, and he constantly was passing Harley beer. And basically Harley always drove 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I believe that.
All believable. Yeah, no,
because
the speedboat accident, he was always speeding really fast.
Correct.
Going really fast and everything. So he just liked fast cars, he lived life in the fast lane too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, rootin' tootin'. Excellent. What do you think Sleepy Heath would say about him?
I think Sleepy Heath would give us a point, but it would probably take 5 minutes.
Probably fall asleep while he's explaining why Harley Race was.
He would probably forget who he's talking about.
Now, I can't remember it because I should have started taking notes. Was Harley Race the one that had to scrub down the fat dude?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Haystacks.
Yes. That's amazing. For anyone that doesn't know, they were doing, it was this carnival acts and sideshows. You did whatever he did back in the business.
And Harley was the wheelman. He had to drive him.
And when he worked for the Italian brothers in the farm, they put him wrenching his arm, wrenching his neck, wrenching his ears. The guy went through the school of hard knocks, so to speak.
For sure.
But when you have to, what was the guy's name?
Happy Humphrey.
Happy Humphrey. He was just a big fat dude. All he was. Just like a big, giant, obese. And the thing is, guys eating a bucket of chicken after every match. He's all greasy and nasty. You need this do it for your face. But then after wrestling a match, he'd be not smelling well. So if you're going to get in the car with Happy Humphrey and drive to the next town, you need to bathe Happy Humphrey.
With a mop.
He would lay down on the ground outside. You get a mop, and like an elephant, you would slather him up.
Ugh.
Both sides, because then he would turn over after the washing of the front or back. And then he'd roll over, and then you'd have to scrub his back with a mop. And then scrub and rinse it off too. And getting them creases too. If
Talk
you know
about
what I mean.
paying your dues.
No one. I think Jim Cornette even said that exact quote. Talk about paying your dues.
Yeah.
That's paying your dues and then some.
Yeah.
But one of those bass, I thought about you. I did. I thought, if you could punch your ticket to wrestling, but for one whole year.
No, thank you.
I knew you were going to say that.
I would definitely go to Men's Warehouse, unlike John Tenta, happily. Because there's no way.
I said, because he had to do it for a year or 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. My nose is way too sensitive.
And I wanted to ask you that question. I said, Wes, if given the option, you could be a wrestler, but for 1 year you're gonna have to scrub tubby tubs,
No, no, thank you.
get in his nethers, and make sure they don't stink. I'm sorry. I just you want to talk about this image anymore? Or you want to move on to the next one?
No, I just think that it was sad. Harley's family life was what it was, but unfortunately, like
It
a
was.
lot of wrestlers, a lot of guys that work on the road, and I keep talking about us here, and I have a lot of friends that have worked offshore and pipelining, and when they come home, their marriage falls apart because they
they're
don't know each
strangers.
other. Yeah.
They're strangers to their wife and kids. Yeah.
So it's just it's a sad story about living on the road.
Yeah.
And the pitfalls that come with that.
You become self-destructive, and it leads to you're just all alone in the end.
But Harley, as far as like a wrestler that's in the respect, I would say he's in the top 10 respected guys in the business. Because you didn't hear anybody talk about Harley was,
No, gypping someone, cheating
yeah,
someone,
showing up in town, holding them up for money,
holding up for money,
have
or
a
not
bad
paying
match.
out.
Yeah, never heard of that.
Refusing to do a job for someone.
Correct.
He did everything, even in his dying days when they were doing embarrassing stuff to him. Hey, it's for the business. Let's do it. I'm still going to be a team player.
So,
Yeah. All right. Next one. Chris Colt, welcome to my nightmare. Chris Colt is, Jim Cornette named it, the biggest, or the most talented wrestler that no one's ever heard of.
and I had never heard of Chris Colt before I watched this episode.
I didn't know who was. And
I
guess who did know him? Mr. Heath. Sleepy Heath told me that he had seen some old, VHS.
In his wrestling magazines or something.
Maybe in his wrestling magazines, maybe in his dreams, maybe in some of the other VHS tapes he made later on in life. But Sleepy Heath told me he was familiar with him. And now I'd never heard of this guy until the episode aired, just like you.
Yes.
And we're not even talking dark. We're talking dark, scary, and grimy side of the ring.
I thought it was more like there's a musical artist from way back when called Gigi Allen, and I felt like Chris Colt's gimmick was very Gigi Allen, more than Alice Cooper.
Okay. Why is that? Why you say that?
Because Gigi Allen was completely unhinged. Like he was destructive and crass and violent and troubling in so many different ways. And that to me is how Chris Colt, because Alice Cooper is a showman.
Okay. Well, back up here. Fact or fiction? Did he meet Janis Joplin? Or is that just a...
Boy, that sounded fake.
Okay. There you go. I don't believe that Janis Joplin is drinking a jug of wine by herself out in San Francisco
at that time, and then he happens to go somewhere and he sees a poster. I mean, if you're drinking a bottle of wine on the streets, let's just say you're probably drinking it pretty late at night.
Yeah.
So where is he going after they have this drink? Down the street, down the block, and that's who that is.
I believe he goes to a party and Janis Joplin might have been there, and he finds out the next day. He didn't really talk. He may have talked to her, but then maybe how you stretch the truth a little bit.
I feel like he stretched as far as he could.
And that story was a little unbelievable. More or less, maybe he went to a party where she was at. Later on, found out she was there, but maybe didn't talk to her. But then made up this story to where they were soulmates or something. So that was a little far-fetched.
Far-fetched.
Okay, far-fetched. But then we get to the Alice Cooper days. Is this ahead of his time?
Well,
stuff,
I
or is
think
this...
let's back up.
Oh,
I
no,
think
go,
a lot of the people they interview on this, those are as real of people as you're going to get.
Oh, yes.
Like his niece and like his god cousin.
Yeah, all the
nephew or
family.
whatever. Like those are some real folks.
Those people don't live far down the road from us.
They know hard times. So
yes, they do.
When they described his upbringing and the violence, I believe all of that.
I believe 100% of that too.
I definitely believe that.
Okay.
So
what else was there that was believable or non-believable? Because I can't think now.
Well, I think that it was believable, and I think that when you come out of something like that, it's gonna alter you in some way. And I'm not gonna even say the sexual side of it. I just think that your defense mechanism of establishing maybe being wild, crazy, a loose cannon kind of thing. You know, he's got all the bullet points of that. So, and if you come out of that, you kind of got a nothing to lose attitude because you have faced death or like these desperate times at such a young, impressionable age where you don't come out of it.
True.
So,
I think they talk about his sexuality.
Yep.
Of course. He had a tag team with his friend / partner.
Correct.
And I do like I believe Jim Cornette was in this one, right?
Yes, Cornette was in a lot of it.
And I like how I love whenever they have Jim Cornette in them, and I love how he was talking about their costumes.
I love how Cornette's always wearing a shirt and tie. Like Cornette works that old shirt and tie gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, like he still will wear his T-shirt and all that kind of stuff, but when he puts on that shirt and tie, there's just something very timeless for Jim Cornette to dress like that.
Tom Selleck has his mustache. Jim Cornette has his suit and tie.
Yeah.
And that's how you see him. When you close your eyes, that's how you see him.
When I close my eyes, I see him screaming at the girl at the Dairy Queen drive-in.
Which is excellent.
Yes.
If only he had a tennis racket.
That could be a Dark Side of the Ring episode.
What happened to the Dairy Queen drive-thru lady?
My gosh. So anyway.
May have to watch that one again.
So Cornette.
But Cornette tells good stories, and he talks about how, you know, they were basically fashion statements for the gay men at that time, but doubled as these tough guy cowboys, bikers with spikes, you know, and it was just a double meaning that was oblivious to the crowd back then, but was hiding in plain sight. Not that hard to stretch. Now, if someone would go back and see that and going, that was your choice of inter-ring wear.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like, that's some two manly men right there.
Yeah.
They got them biker studded spark things, some good stuff, you know. I can see that being said. And, of course, his partner dies. And
has a heart attack.
That kind of puts him in a tailspin.
Right. And he goes and forms the team and has the outburst on the side of the road.
Yep.
Which I believe a lot of...
So all that's believable.
I felt like a lot of that was believable. I'm not saying it's 100%.
Well, when you spiral out of control.
But I'm saying 50% of it where he said, pull the car over, and he front face locked him and said, run his ass over. I'm sure he may have said that. The other guy may have said, calm down, blah, blah, blah.
I believe that 100% because I think he did have his issues and anger and frustration and a lot of... Because when you
take a bunch of chemicals...
Again, we believe his background. And from that background, you are that...
fight or flight.
Savage at times. I mean, it's a primal thing. It's a kill or be killed.
Yeah.
And I'm done with this guy. I'm going to kill him so he doesn't come after me. I mean, that's some crazy stuff, but I do believe it.
Yeah.
Because you know people from that background who got raised that way think exactly they come out with some rough edges. They just can't help.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get smacked around a lot as a kid and you get abused a lot. And there's a lot of anger in that because you got no one to punch because you're getting bullied.
Well, you have no support system around you.
No one to talk to.
No one to keep you safe, so you're just on edge.
You just got to lash out, too. Mm-hmm. You got to release that anger somehow. So, yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that story. Now, the whole mystery of how he died, that was kind of weird. How does the coroner's report not say where he was dead? Couldn't they look that up?
It seems to me like...
Remember, it was all... How do you think he died? Well, I think he went... I heard he did this, I heard he did that. but there wasn't.
He just sounded homeless, basically.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know. Basically, his communication was a letter that was 3 years old.
Yeah, from the guy in the
who-
old Navy or whatnot. Yeah.
So
He kept odd friends that you wouldn't expect him to be friends with, you know?
Well, he couldn't trust anybody in the business. I think that's what that showed, that the guys in the business didn't want to be around him because he was too erratic.
Yeah, too much of a loose cannon. You didn't
Yeah,
know what you would get
you
with
know.
from one day to the next.
And there, you know, I
Well,
think
his former tag team partner
Yeah.
told the story where he's hallucinating on LSD, thinks spiders are coming to the ring, jumps out of the ring and starts to slow and punch everyone. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you were dealing with. I'm sorry to keep
No.
interrupting, but I think that's what you're dealing with, and that credits the wrestlers. Like, I don't know if this guy's going to show up in working condition or not.
Yeah, and those guys, there was a lack of a better term, but they said there was a brotherhood to that, where those 20 guys had to trust each other, regardless if you like somebody or not. But if you can't be dependable, and it screws up the match and screws up somebody's pay, and that's it.
Yeah.
You
Well, they
know?
said when he started attacking fans, they said, we got to get out of here.
Yeah,
These guys, we caused more trouble. Basically destroyed the whole evening
yeah.
for everyone. The whole card's a mess by that time.
Yeah.
So you're not even ruining your own match.
And
you're
you
ruining
burned the
whole
flag
business.
at that time. I mean, the guy, he was a heat
I
magnet.
forgot about that one.
So, yeah, I'm sure you got pulled off the air in 1968 burning a flag. My God.
Yeah. They're coming after you. They want to kill you. So that's just, and they don't know it's fake. You know, a lot of people are in their imagination.
Well, burning the flag is pretty real.
This guy,
especially in Vietnam times. Good Lord.
How terrible. But I mean, so he brought a lot of the heat on himself, and was, as the modeling world says, very avant-garde, trying to experiment with different gimmicks, different rules, different
Which
methods.
is okay, but I think it really just came down to the guy was very troubled.
Very troubled. Well, that pent up anger would
And he could not be trusted. And then when his
that repression in his creativity would just burst out and just start lashing out where he just wanted to take it. He didn't know where the boundaries were.
Yeah.
And he just kept going because it just fueled inside of him. So really wild. Another guy that flamed out really big. But I'll be honest, it didn't give me any interest in going back and watching his matches.
No, it didn't make me interested in anything. I think probably his choice at how he thought he was going to do something else with his career at the end with his
Oh right, we totally forgot about that. Yeah.
his acting career.
Yeah, that sleazy director guy they had on it, whatever.
Was
this dude makes movies.
Yeah, he was interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what I was going to talk to Heath about tonight, was him and Chris Colt in that video where the mask. I thought that was Heath until the director said it was him.
Oh, well, yeah, the director did take credit.
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, work
So it
under
wasn't
who
Sleepy
knows? So
Who would have, been, well, I guess it wouldn't have been Heath, because, I mean, some of those scenes were shot at night.
Probably so.
So that would cancel him out.
I don't know, the fleshiness looked very Heath to me.
Oh, you think so?
Yep.
So the fleshiness was there.
Yes, the pigmentation.
We'll have to, the paleness.
Yep.
The way he glowed at night without any need of lights.
He had a glow, yeah.
He had a glow, as they say. So, yes, he made a couple of smut films, as the kids called them back in the day. Not Sleepy Heath, Chris Colt. And this was his thing,
It was just very
outlet.
challenging. Yeah, and he had lost like so many teeth at this. That's what I was looking at. I mean, it was troubling, but his mouth was just like, oof.
Yeah, and of course, we know people like that here too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
There you go. All of it. Those are real.
Yeah.
You get the videos to pack
You
it
got
up.
trauma. You got a bad dental plan.
It's true. When you're eating those meth chips, what do you expect to happen?
Yeah.
And he was doing every drug known to mankind. But this whole thing, he always told people he wanted to die young like Janis Joplin. Maybe, but that makes me think that that's why he made up the story of Janis
Correct.
Joplin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that just, I mean, he could have been saying, I want to die young like Janis Joplin, because that's a cool thing to say.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you want to die young, you can sometimes.
Yeah, you don't make it all the way to 40, 41 again, I think this guy did.
Yeah.
You want to do
I
it.
mean,
you
he
could have
did
done it
everything he
earlier.
could to. I'm not saying he didn't do everything he could to not do it, but if he really felt like that was his, some
Gimmick,
kind
then,
of
yeah.
like spiritual thing, I just felt like he was a very troubled soul.
Yeah.
And
indeed.
His niece to say, we were just happy if he brought us toilet paper. I just
I know.
thought, man,
That's sad.
godly.
Sad.
Did somebody feed her that line? Is that really what she wanted to say?
I think so.
Godly, that was
was real.
sad.
I think that was real. Just because like we said, we know people just like that.
I didn't know Chris Colt was the Dollar General. I mean, it's just so sad.
The Dollar General of Balkanville.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, so there you go. The sad and dark and gritty side of wrestling. So tell us what you thought about the episodes we discussed.
God bless Jim Cornette.
And God bless Sleepy Heath.
Amen.
Who snoozes around.